It's another Thunder Thursday on News OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, here with our Thunder coverage team from my far left. Beat writer Eric Horn, beat writer Anthony Slater, Thunder expert aficionado Darnell Mayberry.
Looking taller than he is right here. I feel small. I can see us on the camera over there. It's unbelievable.
I like this.
I like it. Anyway, guys, we're talking about the Thunder's 120-108 victory over the Clippers. I got the score right. And the Thunder got the fourth quarter right, Anthony. You were there to witness both of these games, the collapse last week and the triumph this week. Is it as easy as Russell Westbrook? Is that the answer?
It helps. I mean, he was really bad in the fourth quarter. It was last Wednesday. It was exactly a week, prior. 0-6 shooting in the fourth. I don't know how many assists he had, but I would assume not many because they weren't making shots. So how can you even get assists? But Durant played better. He hit a big three down the stretch. Yeah, I think he only had one turnover in the fourth quarter. He had 5 before that. So the Stars played better, and then they got contributions really from everywhere. Kanter was really good in his little pockets of minutes. Morrow, came in. He had a 3. He had 2 free throws. They just played better. Clippers played worse. They were at home. This is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to beat the Clippers at home. They're supposed to hold a 10-point fourth quarter lead. They did it. Good job.
Good job. But, Eric, the ball movement. I mean, as Anthony referenced, at the end of the game, when things started slipping away in Los Angeles, it was Durant and Westbrook really trying to do it themselves. That really never happened last night.
No, it didn't. And you can attribute that again to Russell Westbrook. He was getting out on the break, distributing the guys. I mean, he found Kyle Singler for a dunk. He found Steven Adams for a basket. He was really getting other guys involved, particularly on the fast break. And, I mean, it showed last night. And Doc Rivers was critical of their defense last night. They didn't play very good defense on whether it was on dead balls or live balls. So, and the Thunder took advantage of that and give them credit for it. There was a time where you thought, hey, this lead got whittled down after J.J. Redick hit a couple of big shots, but they didn't falter and they didn't go back to hero ball again. So let's give the Thunder credit. They got a big win.
You mentioned it. Darnell, getting out on the break. The rebounding advantage for this team was unbelievable.
Come to me soon. I got a stat for you.
Okay, we'll get to it. I don't know, 59-23, wasn't it? Something like that?
And they were 62-32 on the Warriors the other day.
Darnell, is that this is one of the great rebounding teams in the NBA, offensively, defensively. Is that a recipe or the recipe for the Thunder to win?
Yeah, I mean, it helps a lot, but they got to stop turning it over. It's not going to help if they continue to turn it over the way that they have been. I think that if they clean that up, they're going to be okay. But there's some other issues that they have to work on. The rebounding itself is not going to win them games in the playoffs.
Okay, Anthony, I'm dying to know.
Everyone's dying to know.
You got a stat for us. Hit it.
Well, their rebounding differential this season is plus 7.8 after last night when they just killed the Clippers on the glass. It's the fourth best rebounding differential in the history of the NBA. The last team, I got it right here, the last team was the 1975 Boston Celtics to have this good of a rebounding differential. They're averaging over 48 points per game, and they're giving up only about 40. They just kill people on the glass, and it's an undertold story of this team. I mean, and it's always said by coaches in the pregame. You talk to Steve Kerr, like, yeah, they got stars, but we really got to rebound because, I mean, that's where they kill people. It's Enes Kanter, it's Steven Adams, it's Russell Westbrook, it's Kevin Durant who has double-digit rebounds 7 straight games. Everyone on this team rebounds.
Hey, Anthony,
you didn't mention Serge.
Well, I mean, he's chipping in 7.
There you go.
One thing you got to say about Serge and rebound more Serge. It's like it's hard to rebound when everyone on your team is attacking.
That's what I'm saying. They're taking it from him. Hey, by the way, Eric, Anthony said it's an undertold story. Geez, I wonder who we should see about that.
I wrote it earlier this year, and then the game after I wrote it, the Nets killed him on the glass. I had that way,
Yep.
It's rare. Once upon a time, the Thunder had 2 of the best rebounding guards in the league. They had Thabo Sefolosha and Russell Westbrook, and that was sort of the story. In fact, they used to stare down Perk if he went after the rebounds. Imagine that. Or they used to stare down Ibaka if they went after their rebounds. Now it seems like the whole team. What I wonder is, isn't the improvement on the offensive glass, and isn't that really a lot traceable to Ibaka and Kanter?
Kanter, really?
Yeah, Kanter's just he just seems to have just natural gifts for being an offensive rebounder. Defensive end, he's still working on that, and Billy Donovan has made a point to tell him to work on that more. And then you've got Russell Westbrook, one of the best rebounding guards ever. I mean, the way he attacks the offensive glass is unseen from anybody we've seen in the NBA in years, but then he leaves you vulnerable too when he goes to the offensive glass and the Thunder's transition defense. So there's a give and take to that too. They thrive on the glass, but they also give something up.
We'll get to that too. Darnell, Anthony mentioned the 1975 Boston Celtics. Is that right?
We're the last team to have this good a rebounding difference.
Okay, I'm going to channel Barry Trammell here. I'm going to ask you, can you name one starter from the 1975 Boston Celtics? Can you name one?
No.
As a second, I believe you're the second oldest person on this panel.
Yeah, I cannot.
You cannot?
No.
I'll go on a limb and just guess Dave Cowens.
Dave Cowens was a rebounding fool.
He was a rebounding fool.
Paul Silas was a rebounding
I'm looking
fool.
at their roster right now. JoJo White.
John
probably not a
Havlicek.
rebounder.
JoJo White. Oh, he used to go to the boards for a guard, yes.
Okay, 6'3". Yeah, Havlicek.
I make this point not to go
Don
down.
Nelson.
Don Nelson. Now, I don't know. Nelsie had the high and tights.
He could probably box out. I mean, a lot of it's boxing.
White wristbands. Paul Silas was a rebounder. I make this point not to set up an age thing between us, but to say this team sends you back into the rule books and the history books often. Last night, it was Russell Westbrook. 1988, Anthony, we sort of glossed over that. The numbers, 20 and 20. There's news on that, though, Anthony. You're breaking news about Russell Westbrook's historic stats.
B-ball breakdown. He's just a guy on Twitter that does a lot of breaking down of basketball. One of the assists was Westbrook passed it to Adams. Adams handed it to Durant. Durant made a shot. It was the Steven Adams assist that went to Russell Westbrook. I would assume since it's out there, it'll probably be changed and he'll end with 19 assists. Still a pretty good night though.
And pretty good night that carried all the way through the game. You see flourishes of this, but those assists mattered as the team was trying to pull away. It seemed like there were several plays. When Andre Roberts is hitting corner threes, that's going to help your assist total.
Yeah.
But the assists last night seem to be coming all kinds of directions, all kinds of ways.
Well, we see it a lot where he comes out of the gate and 8 assists, 7 assists in the first quarter, and everyone's getting involved, everyone's feeling good. But then as the game goes on, as they hit late and there's maybe some drama and he may start panicking and he's taking threes and the team's kind of stops the movement. And he had 8 in the first quarter, but he only ends with 13, 14. Still a good assist total, but when you kind of skew the last 3 quarters, it's not that great. Last night, obviously, career high. It went all the way through. You mentioned it. That's why they won.
Left-handed passing got a lot of mention on ESPN. We'll get back to something that they also mentioned on ESPN. But right now, we got a new video page at News OK Live. Check it out, and it enables you to ask questions during our live events. Let's take a couple of them. First of all, Eric, does Steven Adams get enough credit for his screens? Seems to me he wipes out a lot of defenders.
I think he should. I guess he should get more credit for his screens. Steven Adams is a guy who's setting screens on those inbounds plays yesterday that were so effective for the Thunder. Durant gets free reign to the rim on one where it was early in the game when they made it 5-0, and he had an easy dunk. I think he might have screened off a guy. Well, actually, Durant screened off a guy on a Robertson play in the third quarter. But Steven Adams sets great screens. He's good at those little things, and he's good at post defense. He's good at the things that the Thunder need him to do, and he's added more to his offensive game as well. So, should Steven Adams get more credit for his screens? Darnell, you think Steven Adams is a little overrated?
I never said overrated. I never said
I believe
overrated.
you've said overrated locally.
He is overrated around these parts.
Okay,
he
sorry.
Is.
I'm
Is
sorry
he
I'm blasting
underrated
you like that.
nationally?
Who's better, Steven Adams or Dwight Howard? The fact that you guys
we
even
stopped.
have to
We stopped.
pause
We
and think
stopped.
about
That's
it tells
probably
me
inappropriate.
you're overrated Steven Adams.
Dwight Howard.
Especially with contract and age, I would 100% rather have Steven Adams.
Was not the
I
question.
think for this Thunder team, Steven Adams is a better player. Dwight Howard wants post-ups. He's tossing weird bricks.
And I think that's the important.
He's getting teased. Like, everything matters within a player. And, like, what Steven Adams is, his mind, his toughness, doesn't want shots, he gets other people technicals. Like, Dwight Howard's getting the technicals that Steven Adams is forcing the other team to make. Like, if you combine everything and not just like, hey, Dwight Howard's bigger and blocks more shots, like, Steven Adams is probably a better player. And to me, that's not as much about Adams as I just really think Dwight Howard's declined and not that good anymore.
Another question, by the way, if you want to get Anthony fired up, the charter member of the Steven Adams fan club.
From
just a
day
question,
one.
From day one, charter member. From Arnold, here's a question, Darnell. You handled this one first. Do you think Morrow or Payne will be able to play themselves back into the rotation with Waiters missing time. Of course, Dion Waiters, the third tragedy to strike this team in less than a month. Of course, Ingrid Williams killed in a car accident, the wife of Monty Williams, assistant coach, partner, owner, Aubrey McClendon killed in a car accident, and now Dion Waiters' brother. Classy move by the Thunder last night to recognize both and have a moment of silence for both Aubrey and Dion's brother. Dion's out for an undetermined amount of time. Back to basketball, does this create an opening for, we saw Morrow last night, we saw Payne, is it there for the taking?
I don't think so. And I don't think so because I don't think Dion Waiters is going to miss that much time. They play obviously Friday night and then Saturday night, so that's 2 games that he might not play. He's probably still not going to be with the team, but after that, I expect him to be back. So that's the first reason. The second reason, I think we got a glimpse of it last night. Billy Donovan went to Anthony Morrow and Kyle Singler, and Payne just kind of happened to come in that second quarter a little bit, and then he got yanked. So I don't think he's going to even go to Payne if Waiters has to miss the next 2-3 games. I think he's going to go to Morrow and Singler.
He's done it in a couple games lately where he just kind of squeaks Cameron Payne in the first half. I think he's trying to kind of keep the rookie engaged. I don't know. I mean, I think to me it's more like who gets the minutes, Randy Foye or Cameron Payne, because Randy Foye's been the one playing pseudo point guard. Durant handles the ball a lot of times.
More since you wrote that piece about Durant's turnovers.
I don't think it was the piece. I think it was the optics of what was happening. But so I think it's between those. So Waiter's going to get his minutes. He's the 2 guard. I think he kind of blocks Morrow in a sense. And Kyle Singler, who's playing pretty well lately, blocks Morrow. So to me, the argument's Payne or Foye. I think if we're just looking at right now, like who would help more, probably Foye, just because of he's just a little bit better defensively. But as we talked about on the podcast today, check it out. Is this the right long-term move? I mean, Randy Foye's a 32-year-old free agent. Cameron Payne's a 21-year-old on a roster that doesn't have a lot of young, promising talent, in the back end.
What's the answer to that, Eric?
I don't know what the answer is. I know what I would do.
What would you do?
I would cut into some of Waiters' minutes, and I would give Payne some of those.
You know what? I just thought last night, his defensive liabilities are obvious. His offensive contributions are not significant enough to sort of put up with this. And toughness, this is time for toughness. Randy Foye's tougher.
Yeah.
Stronger.
I'm not talking
better
about,
defender.
I'm not talking about Foye. And part of what I'm talking about, I guess, is more so Morrow's minutes. You saw Morrow get a little bit more minutes last night. I mean, he still didn't get much. But to me, Morrow and Payne at this point are interchangeable. Granted, Morrow's going to hit you some threes. Payne will hit you some threes, too. He's shooting 37% from 3. And both of them defensively aren't very good. So what I would do is I would go with Payne, who's a little bit more opportunistic in terms of defensive stuff. He'll get you some steals every now and then. He'll go on a steal binge. Or he'll get in front of a guy on a screen and work over a screen. Morrow, not so much.
One of the things that's depriving Payne of his opportunities is he's blown leads. Milwaukee, Los Angeles. Those are times in the past when the Thunder's been really good. I think back to the year of Kevin Martin, in fact, when those guys they had the best point differential in the league. Guess what it meant? It meant younger players got to play. Mm-hmm. Those opportunities aren't here because these guys aren't taking care of the basketball. Here's a question, though, from Mike Wilson. Mike wants to know, is there a timeline for Monty Williams' return? Anthony, do you guys see the skid or the defensive, to what do you attribute, rephrase, how much do the missing veteran assistant coaches have to do with the Thunder's troubles?
I think maybe a little bit, how Westbrook had that 2-game relapse in L.A. and Golden State, and he was kind of, he needed to be reined in a little bit.
That 3-point shot.
Yeah. Mo Cheeks has been at practice, and Billy even said it the other day. And Billy's pretty good about he's not jealous of hey, why are you working? He wants his assistants.
Mo, get off the couch.
Yeah.
Get out here.
So
Did you see that 3-pointer?
Yeah, basically. He's been working with Russ, or back talking and around Russ, and then Russ has had 2 great games, so that might have helped. As far as the defensive problems, Monty Williams was kind of their defensive coach. He was working that early in the season. It's not like they were locking people up early in the season.
Their defense hadn't been all that great all season, so I don't think that those 2 coaches. It will help some, but it's up to Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, all those guys to actually play defense.
Yeah,
coach can only do so much.
You've been around it for a long time. But you've seen Mo Cheeks make a difference. When they acquired him, we've seen the moments where Russ went storming off to the end of the bench and started taking off on the seats. That stuff is not happening anymore. Maturation or Mo?
Maturation. Russell Westbrook is what now, 27 years old?
And married.
He was maybe 23 when that happened, so I just think it's the maturation process.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of his maturation, what I can't even say maturation process is the fact that Mo Cheeks was there a lot, and then when Mo Cheeks left, they brought in Robert Pack, and then now Pack's gone, but they brought back Mo Cheeks. Like, they've always had a veteran, old-time point guard that has Westbrook's ear. That's helped with that maturation.
Let's talk about maturation. Let's talk about another old head that came back to town. Nazim Muhammad is back. I saw him at the subway just yesterday. That's the initiation.
There's better spots to go to.
Oh, don't be hating on the
That's
on
where
the
we saw the
broadcast.
champ, Evander Holyfield.
Are they sponsoring us? Never mind. $5 foot long.
No, we saw him yesterday at the subway. Went over there and said hi. He's back. What impact, Eric?
Oh, the locker room impact. He's one of these guys that's been around the team when they had their most success during the years in the finals and the year where they were a great team as well. I mean, you saw him last night when he was talking to Kevin Durant when he was a little hot. You know, I mean, he's a guy that's essentially another coach out there. And I don't think the Thunder thought that they said, you know, if we're going to go get a guy in free agency, we're not going to take a risk on somebody who we might not gel with the locker room. We know what this guy brings. He's a guy that has been around. So when you got two assistant coaches down, it doesn't hurt to have essentially another one come in and be in the locker room every day.
And if you're gonna bring a guy in and not play him, you need to bring a guy in that's okay with not playing. Like, you know, a lot of these buyout guys are getting bought out because they're not playing and they want to play. If Andre Miller's coming in, he's not playing. Kevin Martin, I don't know, maybe. Joe Johnson would have played. They went after him, but Joe Johnson wanted more guarantees, more minutes, that type of stuff. He's in Miami. Yeah, that doesn't help either. As far as, like, I don't know, like, let's say the season played out and they didn't sign Nazim Muhammad compared to what it's about to play out and they did sign him. Does that equal any more wins in the playoffs or before? Maybe not, maybe. But it doesn't lose them a lot. You know, it doesn't give them a loss.
Is this the Kendrick Perkins role, Darnell? Is this the spot that Perk once occupied?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, and I think the Thunder could use it. You got Steven Adams, who's still a young center, not better than Dwight Howard, but he's pretty good. You've got Enes Kanter, still a young center, developing. Nazim Muhammad has seen it all, done it all. He's won a championship, I think, with the Spurs. So he can teach those young guys, not so much Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. I think those guys are veterans now. They understand what they need to do, what they shouldn't be doing. I think it's for the young guys like Enes Kanter, Steven Adams.
Okay, guys, Chris Paul. A couple weeks ago, the beat writer for the Los Angeles Times, I think his name is Broderick Turner, did a story about the dirtiest players in the NBA. He did the top 5, 2 Thunders on that list. They were Steven Adams and Serge Ibaka. Not mentioned, not even in the article, was Chris Paul.
Maybe because most of the players pulled were on the Los Angeles Clippers.
Perhaps. But last night, Chris Paul did an old Chris Paul move. Ask Kevin Durant about it.
Yeah.
Is Chris Paul the dirtiest point guard in the league?
What did he do last night?
He pulled a Julius Hodge on Kevin Durant.
Did he really?
And that's all I'll say about that.
He created separation below the belt.
Oh, is that how Kevin?
Yeah, and he was mad about it. He almost Kevin got really mad at the ref about it. It was right before halftime, right? Is that right?
I think it was second quarter.
Now,
there was a timeout, and like Durant was getting in the ref's face about it. It was kind of.
There's something between these two teams and that particular move. That's the Serge Ibaka move on Blake Griffin. How and why is Chris Paul sort of escaping this tag of being a dirty player?
I'm not sure that he is. I mean, people are talking about it today. There's talk he might actually get fined or potentially suspended for a game for that move. Is he I don't know. I mean, he's so good and he does all this different stuff that, you know, he's not like known specifically for bruising like a Steven Adams, who's always getting in these tussles. And the thing is, we're looking at it right now. Like, there's ways you can like excuse it. Like, oh, I was just kind of trying to get separation.
Get separation.
Yeah, I don't know. You know,
He created
he's
separation.
really tall. I don't know. You know, You can say a lot of things.
Does
But
the likability factor play into Chris Paul getting away with some of this stuff? We see him every day on these commercials. We've been quoting the State Farm commercials all
Dropping
day.
dimes.
I mean, does it kind of tie into the way that some people in the media have said Kevin Durant's gotten a pass for not winning a title or so because of his likability?
Darnell, you go way back with Chris Paul.
Am I allowed to talk about Chris Paul?
What say you
Talk
about
about him
this?
plenty on the
Well, I think
podcast.
we could have a whole podcast or a video about
We
who
just
is the
did.
most Chris Paul of Chris Paul point guards.
I
That was a
don't know.
great
I don't know that he meant to do that. That didn't look intentional to me.
oh, of course it did.
Of course it
He
did.
does
you
this.
ain't-
He does this in the gym.
If you ain't
After
cheating,
I
you ain't
drop one on
trying.
him.
Okay,
That's
on,
what I gotta say about Chris
on
Paul.
to the next thing. Hey,
Well,
guys, you
I got a
want go
Chris
ahead.
Paul question for. Does it bother you? I mean, Russell Westbrook's really starting to do this play too, but Chris Paul did maybe the worst of it last night, where like Kevin Durant just made a layup and he was running up the court, and Chris Paul got the inbound. And he just like ran in front of him, bumped into him, and fell down. And like the refs kind of, I guess, gotta call a foul. Westbrook really does it now in transition, where especially if they're in the bonus and he knows it'll get him 2 free throws, he'll just kind of dribble into somebody and fall down.
There's
What's your
always
question?
some.
Would you like? Does that bother you?
Well, there's more things
That
that bother
play.
you. There's more things that bother you about Chris Paul. He's always around this stuff, which Westbrook's always around. Remember early in the game, Doc Rivers gets a technical foul because Chris Paul somehow got bumped into and got thrown off. I mean, that he set that up a bit. It
Yeah.
really seemed. And then he got a call later when he threw somebody else out of bounds.
Well, there was pain, and looking at the replay, that was just a turnover.
No call.
Hit the weight room campaign.
At the weight room. It does bother a little bit. Here's what bothered the ESPN crew. You guys didn't hear it. We did. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook not getting back. I listened to your podcast last week with Barry Trammell in which he evoked the Hubie Brown line, which is, let me understand this. If you're not on the offensive glass and you're not back, where are you?
Can you do it in the Barry Trammell version of Huey
I don't-
Brown's voice?
I don't
Get
think
back!
I don't think I can. I don't think I can, but I can say this. They were in no man's land many times. Is there an excuse for it?
I mean, look, we talked about this on the podcast today. I think their turnovers just like sap their energy too much. I don't know if it's a selfish type of thing, but like when they start turning the ball over, they stop getting back. They stop making the extra rotation. They're flopping around. They're mad.
The
Teams
Penguin.
get runs. I really think the root of this team's issues happens when they have turnover binges, and they've been having a lot of them lately.
Durant is the penguin. He claps his hands on the side of his legs. Westbrook is the arguing and the stare down. Meanwhile, they're running back. Are any of these legit, Eric?
No, they need to stop it. And
How old are these guys now?
27?
When I mean
Both of
Durant,
them.
Sometimes LeBron James has been caught doing the same thing. But
Everyone, it's NBA, and it's like a long season, and this thing's happen. But like as the playoffs move forward, as these big games happen, they can't be doing this.
but LeBron James will also run you down and get a block on a chase down or something. I mean, Durant will sulk. He went into that second quarter. He went through a funk in that second quarter yesterday when he had like 3 turnovers and he was sulking all the entire time. So, I mean, maybe if they spend as much energy getting back as they did on sulking, it would change things a little bit.
it was noticeable. Jeff Van Gundy had a lot to say about it. Mark Jackson had some to say about it. It'll be interesting to see how that reverberates with the Thunder. A couple other questions. Kyle Singler, a couple questions. One from Eric. You're asking yourself the question
You're
here,
asking
Eric.
questions over there?
Another
There might
guy,
be a guy
and s-
on the-
or somebody else named Eric, or somebody named Jake says, seriously, what's up with Kyle Singler's hair?
Seriously, what's up with Kyle Singler's game right now? He's balling.
He can do his hair whatever way he wants to as long as
Yeah,
he plays.
it is a,
halfway
you know,
decent.
I don't know. It's weird because it's a haircut that I think, you know, if he goes out with his friends, that, you know, it's probably doesn't, you know, it looks like it's all right. But, like, it's one of those haircuts that when he's in a game and, you know, he's wearing basketball stuff in an arena and he's playing, he's getting sweaty, like, it does look kind of weird. He's, like, flopping around. We had a funny picture on our front page. Remember when he hit that hook shot? The hair was, like, looked like he was, like, a weird.
Obviously, there's some irony about me asking about somebody's hair. Let's ask about his game. The talk radio around here explodes whenever he plays. Why is this guy playing? Why is he playing, Eric?
He's playing because he tries. And it didn't equate to
Transition defense.
Yeah, we talked about his transition defense on the podcast. He's one of the few guys that consistently gets back in transition defense and disrupts shots. I think Kevin Durant also does a pretty good job of it at times too, when it's like a 2-on-1 situation and Durant will force a bad shot and the Thunder will get a rebound and go the other way. But Kyle Singler, ever since I think maybe the first time they went to Dallas this year, he was really good in that game and getting back in transition defense. Billy Donovan said it time and time again, he adds length on the perimeter in terms of his defense. I think that's another key factor. He offers more resistance than Anthony Morrow, clearly. He offers more resistance in a campaign. He's not the same body type as a Waiters or a Foy, and he's not doing the kind of defending they are on shooting guards. But on small forwards, you'd rather have a Kyle Singler out there when Durant's not out.
You remember the first half at Golden State? He gave really good minutes. He was I think he might have even blocked Klay Thompson at the rim. He chased, one of those like electric fast breaks that gets a Curry three. He like chased down, ran Curry off a three, and it turned into a turnover. He's hitting his threes more lately. I think he's shooting like 60% the last 7 games. He's been really solid for 7 straight games, and if they can get really solid off the bench, suddenly you're like a very important bench player on this team because they're not getting really solid from anyone.
Remind us, Darnell, what kind of player was he before he got to Oklahoma City?
He was really good. He was a good three-point shooter. He was an okay defender, not great, but sort of that 3-and-D guy, that a poor man's version of a 3-and-D guy in Detroit. But he just does a little bit of everything well. Defense is probably not his strongest suit, but he can rebound a little bit. He can shoot a little bit. He's a good passer, and he knows where to be on the court in terms of space and where to play and position himself. He understands the game that way, and I think coaches really love those type of players, and that's why he's on the floor.
One of the biggest issues he's had, and why you mentioned talk radio and just the fans and they grumble. We heard it last night because he has those perk plays a lot.
Perk plays.
He missed.
Is there groans in the stands?
He missed a couple layups last night. Some guy behind me was like, "Come on, Singler, it's a layup. My kid could make that." And it's like, come on, man. He probably should make that layup. But he had an and one last night. He kind of has. Durant's been finding him a lot. In Milwaukee, he had a few important plays, and this isn't a bench where it's hard to get minutes. It's a bench where if you go out and have a couple layups, oh hey, he's been really good. We're gonna play him again, and he keeps having these nice performances.
Which is shocking because coming into the season, we thought this bench was going to be make this the deepest Thunder team ever, and it hasn't been there.
Well, everyone just has all these weaknesses that are being exposed.
Yeah.
No two-way players, the code word. Okay, the Thunder's got the Timberwolves here Friday night at home, and then Saturday Night Live in San Antonio. And an old friend, Kevin Martin, is signed by the Spurs. I understand you don't think it's that big a deal, Anthony.
Okay, he's declined severely. He's on a really deep team. I really don't think he's going to play much. I don't know. Is he even healthy right now? I mean, when's the last time he had a meaningful game?
Well, it's
hadn't been with the Timberwolves.
Well, here in Oklahoma City, he had some.
Didn't he kind of have a bad playoffs?
He did.
They could dust the cobwebs off Andre Miller, who's been playing for him.
Don't the Spurs make in their business plan, they dust the cobwebs off everybody.
And they make them better.
We were talking on the think about the slowest lineup in history they could throw out there with Boris Diaw, Kyle Anderson, Kevin Martin, Andre Miller.
Are you putting Kevin
David
Martin
West.
in the slow lineup?
Kevin Martin ain't fast.
He moved without the ball well.
Yeah.
He may not be
Few years
fast,
ago,
but he
maybe.
moves a lot.
Look, that lineup could be pretty good. I'm just saying, Kevin Martin and Andre Miller fit the Spurs.
Okay,
That's about the only place they fit, right?
we're talking about the wrong things here. Kawhi Leonard is on the cover of
Yeah, we really
he's
are.
on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And they have their own 30-game winning streak going into tonight's game against the Bulls, I think. Who's better, Warriors or Spurs? Who you got, Eric?
I'm going to take the Warriors. Defending champions, got the MVP. They've got more of what we call quote-unquote positional versatility with the two-way players. Andre Iguodala coming off the bench playing well. Draymond Green as a guy who can do everything. We've been saying the entire season that we like the Thunder better in a matchup against the Spurs in a series than we would against Golden State.
Based on one game, right? Based
on one game. But as we've gone through the season and the Thunder have played Golden State a couple different times, they played them close and kind of shot themselves in the foot. Has that gap gotten smaller in terms of, hey, we'd rather see the Spurs, or the Thunder would rather see the Spurs than the Warriors? I mean, I think that's a question to be asked too, because the Spurs are not that far away from being in that Warriors. I mean, they're right there with the Warriors.
Spurs or Warriors?
Look, I don't know if it's a, we don't respect the Spurs like we should, but is there anyone up here who really would think the Thunder would have a better chance against the Warriors in the series right now than the Spurs? No. I mean, no. The Warriors are incredibly good right now. The Spurs' point differential and everything's great, but it's just, you feel like teams like the Thunder and Warriors can physically overwhelm the Spurs with just athleticism potentially, especially the Warriors. What did they beat them by in Golden State, like 30?
Yeah, it was
35.
bad.
Yeah, they killed them. Look, the Spurs might win the title.
They play possum. Remember, they play possum.
Yeah.
They-
Duncan didn't play that game, I don't think.
Did not. Don't roll your
Makes a
eyes when we say
difference.
Tim Duncan didn't play a game, Anthony. You can roll your
You're
eyes.
right.
at
You're right.
Kevin Martin,
I'm sorry.
not
I just
Tim-
think the conversation, I don't think it should be Warriors and Spurs right now because I don't think it should be Warriors and anyone right now. Like they are.
How many
they
games
are
of separating the Spurs and the Warriors?
I
Like
think
2.5, 3?
3.5. The Spurs lost to the Pacers the other day. I mean, the Warriors lost to the Lakers, but
Yeah.
Spurs are 54-10. Darnell, what do you say?
I still say the Warriors. I think that, they're definitely younger. They've got young legs, but more athletic. And I think top to bottom, I think they're deeper in terms of overall talent. And that, to me, makes them better.
That's all. We'll end it right there, Darnell. That's all for this edition of Thunder Thursday, but you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Remember, download the Thunder Buddies podcast. What did you guys go on about today?
a lot of stuff. We mentioned half of it, today. We talked plenty about those Boris Steele and Andre Miller lineups. No, we talked about Russ. We talked about Kevin. We had a long conversation about Durant's free agency and all the stuff surrounding that right now.
We all think he's staying.
1 year.
Well, yeah.
Don't give it away. And by the way,
Well,
maybe you guys could talk about travel blogs sometimes. That's all till next
I had a
time.
good one from All-Star.